everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Roisin Reads and I am just sitting down to do a video. So if you can hear construction, I'm in a currently different location because my sister's doing coursework upstairs, so I don't want to be in like the way or talking loudly or anything like that. So, and my dog wants to go out. So yeah, that's why we're in a different location. I was to have on a different wig, so thought I'd crack out the long haired wigs, which are a bit harder to brush out and stuff, so they're a lot more high maintenance than the short wigs, which is why you'll have seen me in the shorter wigs a lot. So in March, because I need to do this from like the beginning, in March I read 31 books in March, which is quite a good month. But this month of April, I read quite a lot less, where I read 13 because I was experiencing a slump. It was not a very good month. I read a lot of good books, don't get me wrong, but the books were longer and I just stopped reading. And at this point I was down the caravan and I was with my mum and my nan, so I wasn't reading as much as I probably would have done if I was on my own anyway, because I find it really self-conscious. I find that I get really self-conscious when I'm reading with other people. When I'm on my own I read a lot faster, but when I'm reading with other people around me I get distracted and self-conscious and I don't read as much. So anyway, that's to say I did not read as much in April as I did in March or in usual months. So the books I did read in April are Hawk by L.G. Campbell, which I rated at 3 stars. It was an MC book and I was reading it from the rest of the series, so I was reading all of the books in the series. So the next book I read after that was Beast, again by L.G. Campbell, and I rated it a 3 star as well. They are MC books where the couple get together and... Sorry, you're going to hear my dog's claws. So they get together, there's a male main character and a female main character, and they get together and the rest is history. So in Hawk it was a nanny trope and a single dad trope, and in Beast it was a protection kind of one where the female main character, his dad was in prison, and Beast was somebody that the dad hired to protect the daughter while he was in prison, and now that somebody had found out about her. So both of those books were 3 stars. There was higher books in the series that I think I read. I think Rage was in this series, which I rated a 4 star, but 3 stars is a good book. It was just an average kind of a book. The next book I read after reading Beast and Hawk was I started the Zodic Academy books again because my mum was reading them and she just started reading them for the first time and I wanted to read them with her. So I ended up reading The Awakening as Told by the Boys by the Twisted Sisters, and that was the first time I read that book. And then I read The Awakening. Both of those I rated a 4 star. I then read Ruthless Fae, book 2, which I gave 4 stars, and The Reckoning I also gave 4 stars, which was book 3 in the Zodic Academy. If you have never read the Zodiac Academy, basically there are 2 realms. One's the mortal realm, which is our realm as we know it, and then one's a Fae realm, which they're both very similar, like mirrors of each other, except in the Fae realm there's magic and in the human world there isn't. So, Whisper, what are you doing? So, it turned out that the Savage King's daughters and twin daughters ended up going into the mortal world, and the beginning of the book shows Professor Roisin, who teaches at the Zodiac Academy. He comes to retrieve the twins and bring them into the Fae realm and take them to the Zodiac Academy. the twins have got a rough background. They were in the foster system, and they didn't have a lot of money and they struggled. So when they heard about their inheritance, that's the reason they went to the Zodic Academy and just did that way. So that's a brief review. But there are the people after the Savage King and the Queen died. There is a council that took over, and they each have a son and more children, but there are the heirs, who are the 4 sons from the 4 council members, and they've each been promised the throne basically, and was going to rule as a council as their parents have done since the Savage King died. But now that the twins are here, they're obviously at risk of their throne being taken back by the rightful heirs of being the Savage Kings, and the heirs obviously who lived in the realm world and know all of the Fae realm are like, no, I've lived here my entire life, I know what's going on, I've been brought up to be the ruler of this kingdom, and I'm going to continue to be the kingdom. So they basically try and get everything, they try to do everything they can to make the twins leave the realm and go back to the mortal realm or renounce the throne. So that's how book 1 starts and then carries on. So I got to book 3 with my 4 rating. So then I read Shadow Princess, Cursed Fates, Fated Throne and Heartless Sky to 57%, but I know that I was going to give it 5 stars because I always have. These were all the rereads of the Zodic Academy. So to go over, I rated The Awakening as told by the boys, The Awakening, Ruthless Fae and The Reckoning 4 stars by the Twisted Sisters. And then I rated Shadow Princess, Cursed Fates, Fated Throne, Fate's Throne and Heartless Sky, which I made it to 57% as 5 stars. So that was all that I read of that series in April, and that's how much I've read so far. When it's already in May, and I don't think I'm going back to the series for a while because it put me in a massive slump. I just couldn't read after that, or couldn't read a lot after that. So after I put down Heartless Sky at 57%, I decided to go back to a book that I soft DNF'd again, which was God of Ruin by Roisin Kent. I got to about 50% in that book before soft DNFing it, and then I went back to it and read the rest of the book, which I rated a 3 star. And then I went on to the next book in the series, which is God of Fury, which I rated a 5 star. It was an amazing book. I thoroughly loved it. It was really, really good book, and I recommend reading the Legacy of God series just so you can read God of Fury, because it was such a good book. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think, like I said before in another video, it was Roisin Kent's first book, or it was the first in the series that I've read. That was so far it's the only book in the Legacy of God series which is an book, but I don't know if it's the first book that she's ever written that's an book and published. I don't know, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really, really loved it, and I am thinking of getting a tattoo of the one over the heart. The one over the heart, where you need to read the book, but it's a really special one. I really want to get that, I think. So the God of Ruin book was Landon and Mia's book, by the way, and the God of Fury was Nikolai and Brendan's, and you need to read the trigger warnings before you read the Legacy of Gods, because it is a book that you need to read the trigger warnings for both books. The next book I read was Powerless by Laura Roberts, and I rated that at 4 stars. I really enjoyed that. I think I would have probably enjoyed it if I wasn't in the slump that I was, but but I read that as an audio book, so I went through that quite quickly and I finished that. It took about Powerless, I think I've already explained in another video, but basically there are 3 types of magical beings, or 3 types of beings after the player kit. There are elite who have elite powers and like rare powers. Then there are mundane who have the more common powers and they're like not as powerful, if that makes sense. And then there are ordinaries who have no magical powers. And yes, so basically in Powerless, Pagan ends up saving the life of the king's son and gets put forth for the trials that happened every like 4 to 10 years, I can't remember which one. So she gets put forth for the trials, which is a special trials because the king's second son is in the trials, so they've made it harder for him to prove his worth because he's going to be the enforcer of the kingdom when Kit, his brother, takes the throne. So Kai is now supposed to be an enforcer and they've made it so much harder because he's in it. So she gets put forth for this trial, which usually ends up the people from the slums dead, and she's from Luce, which is one of the lowest of the slums. She's homeless, she's not very powerful or anything like that, so but she knows how to fight, so her dad did teach her how to fight, so she ends up in this trial. And it's a good book, you really do need to read it. It is a very good book, and the entire trilogy is out now, so you can read all of it. So yes, I then went on to Powerless, which is the second book. Not the second book, it is a novella in the Powerless series. It is based on Adina and Makoto. I can't remember his name or how to say it, but that's who it's about. And it's a very good book if you wanted to read it. It happens during the book of, like, it happens during the story of book 1. So you need to read Powerless, Powerful, Reckless, and then Fearless. So that's the order that you need to read it in. I made it to 28% of Powerful before the end of the month. That book took about 5-6 days that I finished that in. Again, sorry if you can hear construction. I'll try to stop when I hear construction, but it's kind of hard to do when it's constant construction. I then read 7 Sleepless Nights by Chloe Walsh, and to preface this, because I haven't rated this book, because I only read the books that were in relation to Binding 13, Keeping 13 and the Boys of Tenon series, because I haven't read any of Chloe Walsh's other books, so that's what I did. I skipped to the pages where the Boys of Tenon series was about. So I'm not rating that because obviously I didn't read all of the book, but what the stories that I did read were very entertaining. I did like them. I wish there was more, but I can't really complain. But I think everybody wants more of a book that they really enjoyed, and The Boys of Tenon was a book that I thoroughly enjoyed, that series. The last book that I started but did not finish in the month of April is The Wingman by Stephanie Archer. I made it to 12% before the end of the month, and I thought this book was going to be a palate cleanser where I could just read it really quickly. It ended up not being that, so I'm not going to say too much about that. But this book, Darcy and Hayden have been friends since they were in college. They met in college and they were best friends, and then Darcy got with his best friend Kit and they all became like a friend group together. They moved away when Kit got into professional hockey for a different team, and Hayden was on a hockey team on a different team, and they moved to different cities and then still saw each other when the hockey season was low and that sort of stuff. But then Kit and Darcy broke up. So they stopped seeing each other, and Darcy comes to live with Hayden because she has nowhere else to go and she doesn't want to live with her parents. So she goes and lives with Hayden, and she decides she doesn't want to be in a long relationship, but she wants to start seeing other people. She wants to start dating and become a player so that she doesn't get into a big relationship with anybody else again, or for a while anyway. And her relationship with Kit was quite oppressive, so he didn't dominate her, but he made her question the stuff that she actually liked. So her hair colour, she said that she always wanted to go lavender, like a pale lavender colour. And Kit, her boyfriend then, said that, why would you do that? I like your hair colour as it is, and she never did it. So she decides that she's going to be her own person and she's going to make her own decisions and do all the things that she couldn't when she was in a relationship with Kit. So yes, so that's all the books that I read, finished reading and started reading in April. So I finished 13 books. I half read one book but finished that from what I wanted to read, and then I started 2 other books. So in total there was 16 books, but I'm not counting all of them because I didn't finish 2 of them. And the 3rd book I read all the way through of what I wanted to read and then stopped reading because it was little novellas in one book, so little short stories in one book. So I just read the short stories that I actually wanted to read. So yes, that is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed. The next video will be my reading vlog that I have started filming, and I have been going through the entire week with me and doing what I've been reading. So I will see you there. If you liked this video, please like, comment and subscribe down below, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.